Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our Gridwork episode 3. And in the last episode, we explored how land memory, ley lines, and the current solar cycle, they are changing the Earth's baseline frequency. So today, we are bringing that conversation closer into the human body. It's a very important topic, Priya, isn't it?
Yeah,
So because planetary shifts don't stay out there, okay? They register through biological systems, which are our nervous system, okay, our connective tissues, our hormones, our sleep cycles, we can say, and most importantly, emotional regulation that we hold. So, if the Earth's grid is reorganizing right now, the human grid has to adapt. Okay. What we are really saying is the body is not lagging behind the consciousness. It is not lagging us. It's often ahead of it. I would like to put it this way. Most people were just never taught
mm,
to read those signals. So, what feels confusing now is often just untranslated data. And this is what we are going to talk about today.
absolutely. Just want to add something before we get started. Welcome you all to episode 3. We are like at episode 3. We're very excited about this progress that we are making because these topics are very close to our heart, and we see a lot of you guys watching these, but then not many of them are liking or subscribing or engaging. So the only way in which many more people can understand these things and learn about these things is if you can spread the word, if you can share it with your loved ones, if you can like it, if you can subscribe to the channel. So please go ahead and do that. And with that, I want to specify, or I want to be very specific about letting you all know that we really are very disconnected from nature because we feel that, okay, nature is another entity, things are happening there. I am here, I have my life to live, so we are two different things. But the whole point of this entire series of grid work that we are doing is to show you how they are all interconnected and how we are all one. Okay, so um every time you feel exhausted without a reason, every time you have this random emotion cropping up without a reason, every time your body hurts, if even though you haven't done any excruciating physical activity, this is your felt experience. Okay, what I mean by felt experiences is your human body, the grid, is being asked to run at a higher voltage than it has in centuries. So when that happens, you'll feel things are going out of space, or things are malfunctioning within you, but it is not. It is actually translating planetary reorganization into sensation, chemistry, memory, even before your mind can catch up with it. And this episode is going to give you the map so that the translation does not feel chaotic.
Absolutely, Priya. So, this episode is very closer as to our hearts, as she mentioned, because if we are not able to embody what is happening around us in our surrounding, our inner grids are going to go haywire. And that's why it matters to talk about this topic today. And this topic is especially for the people who notice certain changes. For example, um, their body reacts before they consciously process events. Okay. For example, let's say if something is going to happen a certain way, okay, and it was very pressurized, let's say, but you are already feeling the pressure 30 minutes ahead of
Before it happened, yeah.
before it happened. Okay, certain kind of. So these are not exactly premonitions, I would say. These are partial sensory premonitions. right?
Mm.
So
Yeah.
this is how you process things. Another is for people who are traveling, who go to the crowds and uh, experience weather changes very strongly in their physical body.
They're called
Okay.
human barometers. I'm sure you guys have sensed it. When the weather is a certain way, and let's say it's gonna start raining, and there is no weather forecast of rain or anything like that, and your hand starts hurting or your leg starts hurting, you're like, why is it hurting all of a sudden? And you will notice that within a few hours it will start raining. So the terminology I use is human barometer because that it happens to me. So just wanted to add that there.
It is really interesting. And also, alongside the physical, these symptoms, the people who experience some kind of emotional responses as well. Certain people feel amplified. Okay, from psychological perspective, some people might pinpoint this as maniac phases. No, they are not. Okay, so another is some of us might feel like resting is not feeling like resting. Okay, rest doesn't restore them the way it used to. So these are some of the key pointers that you can refer to if you guys are feeling this in your body, in your emotional field, then definitely stay tuned till the end. So these are not personality traits. We will be connecting the physiological, psychological, as well as the planetary perspectives all together in order to understand how to work on our body grid today. Okay. So whatever we are going to talk about, the symptoms, signals, signs that we are feeling, these all are our system responses. So we need to talk about this because many of us are interpreting biological responses as emotional weaknesses or psychological instability. This is a key thing, very prominent here nowadays.
Yeah, yeah, I get
That
you.
misinterpretation is creating a lot of self-doubt. Okay. And
And
if you
also, there is so much noise that people are unable to understand what do I follow, what is true, what is not true, right? So that is also causing a lot many more confusions. Some are ignorant, sometimes that's a bliss. Many of them are unable to be ignorant anymore, and they are going through that confusion. The reason why I say they, guys, is because I think I went through that confusion a few years ago. So yeah, just that.
so if our bodies are giving information, let's say this way, before it forms the language, okay? So the first thing is people call it dysfunction, or psychology name it as dysfunction. So today we are going to break so many myths over here. We feel that it is early detection of what we are going to talk about it. But in a culture that we do have that only trusts cognition, okay, people end up overriding their own instrumentation. So what I mean by that is they keep on pushing through the fatigue that they are feeling. They don't talk about it. They override their pain. Okay. They explain away sensitivity. They skip it. Okay. So over time, there is a lot of inner conflict that has happened in you. You carry that burden not because your body is wrong, but because we have not listened to it.
Mm.
Okay. So that is the major point that we are going to cover in this episode today. And
And if you feel that, like Alicia, you mentioned a point wherein you explain away sensitivity. That means you are over intellectualizing
yeah,
whatever you're feeling, right? And if you feel that by doing that, the signals are going to become weaker, then we are in for a surprise because the signals are not going to get weaker, they're only going to get stronger. And a human being or a system that isn't integrated does not get wiser, it only gets more flooded. What I mean is, when individual um, this is another myth that if you are energetically sensitive person, then that means you're very fragile, you're, very weak, and you need to be kept a certain way within a glass case. No, just because you're sensitive doesn't mean you're fragile. It just means that you're uncalibrated instrument in a room where someone just turned the volume from a 4 to, let's say, 11. That's about it. Okay. And once again, the reason why we are stressing on this part, that this conversation matters, is because misdiagnosing accurate biological responses as anxiety disorder or being too emotional, or giving it names like depression, or um, and all sort of names. I guess you're getting the gist. Or being too emotional and being too sensitive and being too, all of those is the fastest way to shut down the very perception the planet needs right now.
Right. So what it means is that, see, we are the epicenter of what is happening around us. Let's put it that way. So, which means our body is acting as an information system. Okay. So, it is not a passive container, it is an ever processing information system, constantly processing, even if you realize it in the conscious or not. Okay. So, when all these signals move through your body, electrically, chemically, mechanically, and neurologically, it often moves faster than conscious awareness that is there. Okay. So, one of the most important systems here is fascia, the connective tissue that wraps around your muscles, your organs, your nerves, your bone. So, today, the human body grid is all about the facial intelligence that we are going to explore because it connects everything, which means nothing in the body happens in isolation. It is all interconnected. For example, a jaw that learned to clench early can affect breathing. Okay, so there can be some asthma issues or very dysregulated breath. Okay, a pelvis that learned to brace can change how safe the heart feels opening. So,
Hmm.
all these things are interconnected. If we see it from the energetic perspective of chakras as well, we know that all these coherent points, okay, the sacral and the heart, so it becomes imbalance. That is the imbalance that we are talking about. It's not the imbalance in the air that is happening on the body level. Okay. So when people ask, why is this coming up now? Okay. The answer is simple, very simple answer. The system finally has enough signal and safety to let it come to the surface.
Yeah. And the fascia itself, it's uh I want to add another layer to what Alicia said. Okay, so it is just not connective tissues, it is liquid crystal, uh piezoelectric, alive with bioelectricity. It listens. What
Yeah.
and I want to specify this. For your body, your voice is the voice of God, and your body is the universe. So everything that you speak, how you speak, what you speak, who is listening to it? Your body is listening to it. So every threat you have ever survived, every love that you have surrendered to, every time you held your breath so that the world couldn't see you cry, your fascia recorded the exact tension pattern and stored it like a bookmark. Now, when the planetary field becomes more conductive, okay, these bookmarks starts opening on their own. And that is why you can be walking down a perfectly ordinary street and you will suddenly feel this wave of grief and heat and pressure for no apparent trigger. Now, that is not your body getting confused. That is the reading it's the reading the updated field through to decades of old imprints.
Right. Yeah, we have been working a lot in our group gatherings that we do have in Guardians of In Between. I feel like this is the most common thing that we have seen. People are experiencing so much in their body, and it varies from person to person.
Yeah,
Okay.
because everybody who is in that group is coming from different level of expertise, different level of shadow work, different level of inner work, right? Different modalities that they have learned or they have been practicing, and all of these things. The one of the main reasons why we are not just focusing, like in grid work sessions, we are not just focusing on outside locations, is because in order for us to do the grid work, which is the external grid, our internal grid needs to be a certain way. The reason why we have internal grid alignment sessions in Guardians of the In Between is so that when we are, see, for example, we are going to have the solstice ceremony soon, right? Now for that solstice ceremony, which is going to be an external service to earth grid work, your internal grid needs to be aligned with that energy, and hence the first thing that we do is that alignment session. Once that alignment session is done, and then when we connect for solstice in a few months, then your body is much more calm, your nervous system is calm in order for you to be able to do that.
So we can say that not every nervous system is same when it interacts with our field. Okay, when we work together. Okay, some people are wired for very high sensitivity.
Mm,
Okay, meaning their systems pick up on very subtle changes that are happening in the environment, what is happening in the relational fields, planetary level as well. So, what I mean to say is all the nervous system has different wiring. Okay. This wiring is neutral. It becomes a problem only when it is unsupported. Okay. So as you mentioned about inner grid
mm,
calibration, which is very much necessary to work with the outer grids,
mm,
that is the planetary alignment. So there comes one very important thing, which is sensitivity. Okay. So when people feel so much unease in their body, they feel very blah about it.
mm.
Okay. Their sensitivity isn't something to get rid of. They feel very shy about it. They close themselves.
They
They go
feel
into
very,
isolation. No,
they feel very weak about it.
very weak, very weak. And they start hiding it, even from the environment where they are living.
Yeah,
I've done it myself
yeah,
for
yeah,
a very long time.
yeah.
Okay, previously. So it is something that we need to stabilize. That is why we are talking about our body grids. So without regulation, sensitivity feels more like exposure.
Mm,
Okay. So in our sessions, we very much focus on our inner grids and regulation to create the accuracy of our inner grids in coherence with the outer grids. So the goal is to sharpen the perception that we get. Okay. The goal is to support it instead of going into overwhelm stages, I would say.
yeah, also, if you look at everything that is happening right now, um most people are feeling very sensitive because of the, or how do I say this? Or sensitive people were never meant to live in artificial light, right?
Right.
I'm saying that as there's a light above my head, and I'm exactly talking about that light itself, okay? So we were never meant to live in artificial light. The chronic fight and flight culture is not supposed to be something that we're living in. The ancestral trauma that never got metabolized. So this is not for us. Now, on top of all these things, you add what is happening outside of you, which is your solar flares, your solar activities, your geomagnetic excitement, on top of all this inherited load that you have. And now you don't have to be literally sensitive. You're just overloaded with all these things. So the irritability, the bone deep fatigue, the sleep that does not touch you, the way the crowd feels like sandpaper on your nervous system, these aren't character flaws, guys. These are signals that the bandwidth has increased. However, the circuitry needs to be upgraded, meaning your mind is running the same continuity loop. The aim here would be to reset your mind. That is
Correct.
your inner grid. That is your core operating system of your inner grid, your mind.
Pointing to that, mind contains so many layers of trauma. Okay. So there are trauma points, trauma memories, which are very prominent in our emotional field. So when these memories come up, they act as disruptions,
Mm.
okay, which end up creating a pattern of interruption in how information moves through our body. Likewise, let's take an example over here. Okay, for example, a lady was cutting the vegetable. Anybody was cutting the vegetables. Okay, and the person got a cut on their hand. Okay, so that is the memory stored. Or let's say they were thinking about something very emotional at that point while chopping the vegetables. Okay, so it got connected with the physical tension plus emotional tension. So
Mm.
that was a combination. Okay. So when you revisit in certain same kind of environments, these things pop up. Okay. It will show up in your body as well, before, after, or within that moment. These are the patterns of interruptions. Okay. When any experience overwhelms your nervous system, the body adapts by tightening, it can show up by numbing, by disconnecting, even. About the subtle cues that you might feel in your body, please go to the episode 1 where we have, Priya, it was first episode or second?
I think in both the episodes, but in episode one, we have actually given a lot of cues on how you will feel in your body.
Yeah. So that understanding, that adaptation is very important. It is very intelligent, but it comes with long-term consequences. So most people don't realize that the body doesn't measure time the way mind does. I repeat, body doesn't measures time the way mind does. Okay. So a pattern laid down at 7 can still be organizing behavior at 40, talking about the age cycle. Okay. Not because someone is stuck over there, they are stuck in their childhood, but because that loop never got the completion. And that is what is all about your inner fit. It is all about your inner trauma points. These are the disruption points. These will amplify right now because of the baseline shift in the frequency. Your body will show up all these things. So it is a very much, uh, I would say, duty, or you can use any word. It's time for some conscious efforts
Mm.
on our inner grids. So, which means healing is not about just revisiting our old stories, going there, rewriting the old scripts endlessly. No, it is a big one. It's all about allowing the body to finish what it couldn't finish that. Okay. So then you would be able to complete that.
Because I want to add a point over here, okay? When you go into therapy, you end up talking about something that did not go right for you over and over again.
Hmm. Hmm.
The intention with which you go to this therapist, and I'm sure the intention of the therapist is to be able to help you, right? But then what I'm getting to is, Just because you are repeating something over and over again doesn't mean that the problem is not going to go away or resolve. All right, because when you go through trauma, it gets freezed in your body in a moment that never got to its completion state.
Yeah.
Now, when it doesn't get to its completion state, then the survival energy that should have moved through either fight or flee or collapse or getting oriented with whatever happened or getting connected gets locked in the tissue instead. Now these locked places becomes low bandwidth zones. And when the planetary field surges, then this current has to deroute around this freeze, creating a pressure, a pain, or any kind of sudden emotional storms. And that is why people can be doing all the right things when it comes to mental wellness or spiritual things, but still feel destabilized. You cannot access higher octaves or higher dimensions um, through a body that is still running survival software from 30 years ago. And I'm sure you've heard this word called regulation. Okay, I'll tell you the meaning of it soon, but regulation isn't luxury, guys. It is prerequisite for how you need to feel. Now, the dictionary meaning of regulation is the act of controlling, managing, or adjusting something so it functions properly. Okay, so when you go to a therapist or a psychologist or a psychotherapist who are not aware, I'm not talking about the ones who are aware of these concepts. I'm talking about the one who's very sticking to the books and just going academic way, okay? When you go to them and when they talk about regulating your emotions, manage your emotions, what they mean is this, which is control, manage, adjust to something so that you are able to function on a daily basis. They collapse is not possible because you have a life to live. So, manage. We're not talking about management in this case. We'll let you know what we're talking about in the next segment of our conversation.
Right. So, so can we say that uh, the stability skill is the foremost important skill that we must embody, right?
Yeah.
Because that will allow the nervous system regulation, okay, without carrying the complexity, without collapsing, as you said, right? So regulation, it is a misconception here. Again, it is a myth. So mostly people work with psychologists or anybody who gives therapy in the therapy session. So this is a common thing that I have seen. They mean regulation is equal to calm.
Mm.
It is a myth. It is not like that. Okay. It means being able to return to the baseline. Okay. Even after going through all these things, all your emotions, all your inadequate things. Okay. A regulated nervous system, it doesn't suppress emotions. Likewise, we previously talked about no, when people intellectualize their emotions, they skip, they bypass how they feel. So this is again a myth in pop culture, spirituality, that when you have more understanding of regulation, you don't feel emotions the way you feel. It's just that you carry more awareness around emotions when you feel them. Okay. So it creates enough internal space inside you so the emotion can move through without hijacking your behavior. Okay, I know this might take a little uh, time to settle in the information that we are sharing right now. And while you were speaking, Priya, one thing very vividly popped up in my insight. That was the question that I yearned throughout decades. Why was this information confined to only experts?
Mm.
Why was this information confined to only doctors, experts, scientists, anybody who is working in this field? This is the foremost information to just be.
Yeah, because if you are going to be emotionally healthy, if
Yeah.
you are going to be emotionally sovereign, right? Then you're going to be a threat to the system because you are not living in fear. You are not handing over your authority to some organization outside. You are not depending on others to tell you how to be, right? Because the most thing that has happened in 2025 is all of us have very willingly handed over our freedom in the name of convenience. That wouldn't be a possibility, right? If they would have taught us all these things, or if we would have learned all these things.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is very important to learn the stability skill because that is where the discernment lives. Discernment doesn't, it's not something that will arrive from somewhere inside you and will be like, okay, now we getting more discernment. Discernment is directly proportional to the stability that you have inside you.
Hmm.
So not being calm, but being resourced enough to choose.
I'm going to go back to regulation. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So the regulated system isn't one that never gets activated. What I mean by that is, I'll simplify this statement for you. Okay. We're all human beings. We all have amazing range of emotions. So if you have an understanding of your emotions, you're going to go through it, you're going to feel it, be it anger, be it frustration, be it sadness, be it whatever emotion, whatever feelings that we're talking about, you're going to go through it, you're going to complete the cycle, and you're going to come back home. You're not going to be stuck somewhere. You're not going to be frozen somewhere. Okay. The actual meaning of regulation or emotional regulation is the ability to notice, to experience, to process, and to respond to emotions without suppressing or being hijacked from them. That is exactly, if you can practice this, then you can practice discernment, because it's very similar to each other. Okay. We also do something called as a clarity code. You all, if you want to understand more about your own emotions, if you want to understand why do you get triggered, if you want to understand the root cause of your triggers, if you want to understand what your triggers are even, okay, so if you want to understand these, if you want to go into the depth of this, okay, what we do is we conduct these 3 hour immersions called as a clarity code, wherein you come in, you learn the concept, and you experience it at the same time. So we're not gonna stop you from experiencing it. What we do is, the distance between the trigger and the reaction, we are going to measure that, we're going to lengthen that, we're going to make it more bigger, so that there's more room for choice, there is more room for response than reaction. Okay. So when that inner space becomes stable, sensitivity stops being a burden, and now it becomes like a precision instrument. So you feel everything, yes, but you are no longer drowning in it, because the sad part of how we live is, we might have a bad situation and we live with that situation longer than we live with a situation that has made us happy. Somebody criticizes you, we remember that
yeah,
for a longer period of time than somebody who has appreciated us. This is this this is what I mean by drowning in it. Okay. So when that personal coherence becomes, so when that understanding comes in, and then the you have that coherence internally, then that becomes a contribution to the planetary. Because last, I think the last episode I was talking about unity consciousness. So if you want to know about it, then you can go listen to that. But then that is where we are getting with the human grid that we are talking about today.
So when we see that, it is, to me, it listening to you, it felt more of like journey from reactivity to coherence,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
Because, sorry, Elish, in nothing that we do, you all, we teach how to increase your frequency. Okay. Um, I probably am going to offend a lot of spiritual people, spiritual workers, but I will just say it plainly, okay? When you are in your unhealed state, that means you have your traumas, you have your conditionings, you have your belief system, you're literally in fight or flight, and you attend a session, let's say inner child healing or womb healing or whichever, what happens is that your frequency tries to go higher, and it does go higher, okay? Because we all are high frequency beings. Your frequency goes higher. Now, because your frequency is higher and because you have all these baggage with you, there is going to be a lot of conflicts within yourself. Meaning, you're going to have heightened experiences. You will have vivid dreams. You will, have beautiful imagery going on and all of these things. But this is like a sugar high. It's going to be there for some time, weeks, maybe months. And then you're going to crash, and then you're going to go for another session. You go through a high, you go down. The same thing with plant medicine. Okay, it's all the same. It's going to take you through that high because it's increasing your frequency. It's not going to stay there, because that is not coherence. Coherence comes from embodiment. Coherence comes from integration. Coherence comes from your inner work. That is what is going to get you to a higher frequency and make you stay there. Then higher frequency and make you stay there, because um, inner work is not like a 3-month course. It's a lifelong course. So you keep evolving, you keep learning, you keep doing your shadow work, you keep getting into higher states, altered states, and that is how your coherence stays there. I have had so many people who have worked with therapists, who have attended all these courses, felt great, love, light, and bullshit, and then gone through a very lowest low, and then they realize, oh, but I have all these baggages, so I need to work on these baggages. You start working on these baggages are not going to be gone in 3 months. Like I said, these baggages take more time, because these are the baggages that you have been collecting for the last 30, 40, 20 years. So if you're expecting them to be gone in 3 months, then I don't know what to say. But anyways, so when you continue to work on yourself, when you continue to work on your shadows, you're going to get into a space wherein you have discernment, you have emotional sovereignty, you have clarity, you have calm, you have flow, and all of these things.
I feel like we are going to offend so many therapists and people who are working in the same domain. Okay. So, I would say next phase of grid work is not confined to the intensity of constant activations, as Priya mentioned. It is all about coherence. It is all about receiving, processing, and then responding without fragmentation. Okay. And coherence, how we can contain the coherence? Might be wondering, this might be the thing
Mm.
going on at the back of your mind. How to contain that? It will be contained in you when the body, the nervous system, and your perception stop pulling in directions, different directions, right? So when that happens, energy stops leaking, decisions get cleaner, boundaries become effortless, and your living becomes effortless. Like it's very smooth. Okay. So your presence alone starts to stabilize the spaces you enter. What I mean by that is that you don't only stabilize your inner and outer grids. When you move from one land to another, when you move from nodes to another node, even travel, move cities, go to different offices, places, food joints,
Mm.
wherever you enter, your field is going to ripple that stability.
Yeah,
That's where it connects to the unity consciousness, as you mentioned, Priya.
yeah.
So, without
And
trying to fix anything, let's just uh, learn or to embody this and put in some effort to journey from reactivity to containment of coherence.
and that one single shift can turn your overwhelm into discernment, your exhaustion into your inner power, your reactivity to your ability to respond, your responsibility. So your body isn't the obstacle of the work, okay? When it is coherent, it becomes the work. Spirituality is not outside of you, it is within you. It is how are you to yourself. That is what matters. And yeah.
It is the word. Yeah. So, guys, you're most welcome to join Guardians of In Between. Link is given in the description. In the WhatsApp group, we do gather monthly. Okay, we have sessions wherein we explore all these dynamics, all these domains carefully, connecting body, land, and collective systems, all the systems that we are in. So, this is not about becoming someone new. Okay, please note that. So it's about giving your system the conditions. It needs to function the way it was always designed to. So getting back to your original essence, your original design. So you're most welcome to join us. Link is given in the description. Yeah.
Or if you would like to be part of the clarity code immersion that we spoke about earlier, which in which we, talk about the psychology of coherence, so this is not a lecture, guys. This is an experiential session. Okay. So we take you from point zero to the end. So if you would love to learn the psychology of coherence, how to complete old stress cycle, how to free any trapped energies that is there within you, how to build an inner grid that can hold the new frequencies without burning out, then you need to be part of that. It's gonna happen in Jan. Dates are not fixed yet, but then I'll put in a link so that you can go register for the January session. And if your body has been speaking louder than your mind lately, then the space is just for you, the right space for you.
Yeah. So, guys, this was episode 3, all about body grids, all about facial intelligence. I hope you got a better perspective of what it is. Okay, now it is not Gupta Vidya, any kind of any hidden knowledge. Okay, so we will be exploring all these things in our upcoming episodes. And do comment below if you would like to touch any topics or certain things related to the grid work. We would love to address that.
Yeah, and the next uh the next week's topic is going to be so interesting because if you look at our initial videos, we have gone from grid, okay, outside external grid. This episode we've gone into our human grid. Now we're going to go from the body into the ancestral grid. So we're going to be talking about how lineage patterns live in your fascia, your blood, your bones, and what it actually means to clear them without any kind of spiritual bypassing. um that is what we're going to be talking about next. So you're in for a lot of tips,
Yeah.
hacks, myths about relationships. And I know this is one of the hot topics. um Everybody is in a relationship mess, guys, so I'm sure you would want to be a part of this. So make sure you subscribe and make sure you're there and listening to us.
Yeah. Thank you for meeting us here. And this is the point where we start understanding the body. Okay. So from here, the grid expands. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you,
Take
guys.
care.
Take care. Bye bye.